This is my Max Min device. I'm going to go over a couple of ways that I actually like to use it, but let's just very quickly go over the interface. It's nice and straightforward. We have a CV input. I'll come back to the reset in a second. And then we have a maximum and a minimum, which is going to send out the highest and the lowest voltages it has remembered over time. So it's not to do with current, it's to do over time. So if at the moment I happen to have 0 volts in, both the min and max are going to say 0 volts. As soon as I change that to 4.5, the min is going to say it's 0 and the max is going to go to 4.5. If I was to change the input voltage now, say to -5, then obviously the minimum will say -5 and the max is still at 4.5. If I was to hit reset now, because there's a reset button, or send in a gate, it will actually say the maximum value it's had through it will be -5 and the minimum value will still be -5. So whatever the current voltage is, when you hit reset, the min and the max are going to be that current voltage. Obviously, if it's a fluctuating voltage, it's going to change very quickly. One of the places I like to use a min-max counter is when I'm using a feedback loop, because a digital feedback loop can actually hold different values, and we can demonstrate that very easily. So all I'm going to do now is very quickly create myself a feedback. So I'm going to go from in, out, and I'm going to take this out and I'm going to put it back into that in. But at the same time, so I'm going to hold my control key down. So I'm going to want to take a feed over to this one over here. And yep, let's go to the top so we can actually see the value coming out of it as well. So at the moment, we've got ourselves a nice little feedback going through here, and we can see the result up here. I'm actually going to just wire this min-max up as well. Hit reset. So once I've hit the reset, it's definitely saying there's 0 volts, or the maximum is 0 volts and the minimum is 0 volts. So I can confidently say throughout of this whole feedback loop, it's 0 volts. What I'm going to do now is I've got myself my tri gate over here, and I'm just going to take a simple trigger and inject it into this loop. I'm just using the antenna inverter because it sends out a 5 volt, so it just gives us a different value easily to see on the voltmeter over this side. So I'm just going to hit it once, and here's our value. So the maximum value going through this loop at the moment is 0.72666626 of a volt. But you can see this top one is flashing, and the reason this is flashing is because there's also a 0 volt going through here. So at the moment we'll have a 0 volt coming down this line. I injected in 0.726 etc. into that one. My 0 volts now coming down here. My 7.26 is coming down here. Then it's coming down here. My 0 has gone back up here. So they're following each other around. And this is the issue you get like with doing like digital counters and doing some, using a digital circuitry. So what we can do to resolve that is, this is where a min-max counter can come in really handy. So first of all, I'm going to remove this feed from here, and then I'm going to take my maximum and push it into here. And as I say, I use this kind of feedback loop to build digital counters. So I've got a voltage counter. I'm just going to hit reset here, and you notice that as soon as I hit reset, this bottom one, which is minimum, is now come out as 3.6, the same as everything else. So it's saying the minimum voltage in here is 3.6 and the maximum 3.6, so we can confidently say it's the same voltage throughout. So whenever I now inject a new piece in, it's going to start counting it up. This one, the reason this one hasn't counting up is because we've got to hit the reset, because it's saying that it remembers that the lowest amount is 3.6, not what the current amount is, the lowest amount it's ever seen. So if we hit reset, it's now going to say the lowest amount it's actually ever seen is now 5.8 there, which is the same as all the others. So yeah, we're really confident that this is now counting up correctly. And I also do, like voltage countdown feedback loops, and obviously to do it that way, I just use the min rather than the max, and then you can do sort of countdowns. That's one of the ways I love to use a min-max counter. Another place I like to use a max-min counter is when I'm setting up some kind of modulation, usually when it's totally randomized. So we've got ourselves loads of figures which are going on. We might be combining some stuff. So there could be envelopes, it could be all kinds of things happening over at this side. And you can see the figures are all jumping all over the place. But by using a max-min counter, we can give ourselves like some static values. So we can say, right, we can look at the extremes, because usually when we're setting up some kind of modulation, especially going to the destination, we like to look at the extremes to say, yes, this is how high we want it to go, this is how low we want it to go. Yeah, that's the extremes, that's what we want to measure. And so to be able to actually set these up and actually hit them values to check, and to hit that lowest value and check without having to wait, as you can see, this is like counting away, and because it's so randomized, you could be waiting absolutely ages, or you never might not even quite hit your extremes. Usually when I sort of deal with a lot of randomization stuff, I try and speed it right up so I can get my min and max values. But once I've actually got this all set up and it is actually working, then the max min counter is obviously removed, because obviously that input will be going to the true destination, and because we're interested in the values which are happening now in between, not just the extremes. So it's great for setting up some kind of, especially randomization modulation, where we do want the extremes and we can go off and test. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to look out for PoohBear's goodie bag bundle, which is available in the shop.